Are you a House of Cards or Game of Thrones?
Not politics.
Definitely not politics.
No. Broadchurch 2.
Broadchurch, very ITV friendly. Broadchurch 2.
Homeland.
Homeland. You haven't watched House of Cards?
I think I watched the original one 20 years ago.
Too much politics on a Saturday night.
Too much politics or any night.
No Today programme in the morning?
Nope.
No news? No news night?
Nope. It's too much like work. I mean, it is work.
So you are good at switching off?
I am good at switching off.
You've done it.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, look out.
So basically, he is actually quite good at pool. I'm left to demonstrate how I misspent my youth.
That's impressive.
Before we settle down to try and nail how far to the left he actually stands.
In the New Labour era, there was a deliberate attempt to try and hog the centre ground, to be friendly to business, to get on with the newspapers, even the right-wing newspapers.
I've failed on the getting on with the newspapers thing.
You have, we can probably agree on that. But you seem to have deliberately done so. You seem to be trying to prove that a different path to power is possible, that you can be on the left, you can not worry about the newspapers, you not necessarily worry about big business.
Well, I think you know, some of that is definitely true. Look, I'm trying to do what I believe, which I think is the most important thing in politics, but more important by far than anything else. And some of that involves different choices from the New Labour years, on Rupert Murdoch, for example, on, you know, News International. I don't think they're going to be backing me at the
you think?
Election.
I don't know what gives you that idea. I think they're right behind you.
So different choices on that. Different choices about what I believe about inequality. I think partly New Labour had been out of power for a very long time, or Labour had been out of power for a very long time, and it was, if you like, it was a different time and there was a different things that needed to be proved. But look, the general point you make, which is I've moved on from New Labour, that's why I stood after all. Look, why did I go through all that pain with David and everything? It's because of my beliefs. Because of what I believe.
And I'm clear about that you're saying that the reason you stood against David wasn't about personal ambition.
No.
It was because his vision of the Labour Party was different from your vision, and you wanted the two to be
different
tested
things.
again.
Yeah, we offer different things.
And in the affiliates, 19.934%.
Ah, yes, his brother. That remains a complicated issue to this day. In that leadership contest, I remember watching both of you come out, and you both, in your own ways, did look very, very shocked. And I do wonder whether, not that it would necessarily have changed things, but that you thought through or were prepared for the emotional impact of what would happen if you won. Is that fair?
I think it had a more bruising impact on David than I thought. You know, that was obviously sad. I feel we've come a long way since then. You know, he's got his own job, his own life in New York, and much happier, you know, rather than sort of being here and being sort of, you know, in this slightly awkward position. I don't regret for a moment standing. I don't.
You say sometimes you use the phrase healing rather than healed.
I think healing is the honest truth. You know, I think it was a hard thing, and
he was very upset at the time. I remember that. I remember seeing him in the immediate aftermath. He clearly was very upset.
Yeah, and he's in America now, and all that. So there's obviously been, you know, it's had repercussions.
Do you feel confident that you'll one day get to the point where it's totally water under the bridge between
I do. I think so. I think it'll take time. I think this election is a sort of hump in the road to get over as well.
Yeah.
You know, and then you move on.
So here's a straight question. Will he now rule out a rise in VAT?
He's right. Straight answers deserve straight questions, and the answer's yes.
Well...
Hello. Hello. How are you, sir? I'm going to be honest and say I probably don't think you're going to put that on your greatest hits tape.
No, although I did sort of think he might try and say in the first question, oh, well, we are going to rule it out. But, I mean, I don't think anyone will believe them, as Hugh Bailey, the guy, said at the end.
The impression I got is that you actually didn't expect him to rule it out so firmly, and it took the wind out of your sails a bit.
No, I was actually just saying to somebody on the phone half an hour before, what happens if he says, yes, I am ruling it out? And I actually had a sort of line on it, so these things happen.
I mean, the battle begins now, right?
Yeah.
This is it? We're out there.
Last Prime Minister's question's over, and the real battle begins.
If you do lose, have you pondered what you would do with the rest of your life?
There's only one prospect that I'm canvassing, and that's winning. How do you want your scrambled eggs, sweetie?
Hello. Well, that looks nice.
It does look nice,
Very
doesn't
nice,
it?
boys.
How do you want them?
This is mine.
Do you want butter on your toast?
No, this is
Do you want
mine.
them on toast?
Yes, I definitely want butter.
So does Ed spend much time in this now very, very famous, as written up by the newspaper's kitchen?
Well, we spend about probably equal amounts of time. Well, perhaps I spend more time. Oh, darling.
There you go.
Thank you.
What can I say?
So, Justine, did you expect when your husband became leader of the opposition, you'd have to be reading reviews of your kitchen in the newspapers?
Hang on.
I
What's
think
Sam wanting, sweetie?
I think one thing Ed's got, and I really hope I've got it, is a sense of humour. And I do think you need a sense of humour about quite a lot of things that happen. Because there are serious things about politics, but there's also a side that it's good to have a sense of humour about. And I think our kitchen is definitely one of those that falls into that category.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
Right.
What Daniel's eating his toast. Are you going to have eggs?
I am. I'll come in the same.
They're interviewing my toast.
I am doing, yeah.
So this is where I get to demonstrate on camera how I eat things.
Well, I'll leave.
Thus, you'll leave me to... You're not allowed to film Justine eating, you've got to film me eating.
Salt and pepper.
No, I am fine.
That's quite
Really
big. I would definitely cut that in half.
Listen, I'm going to be able to do it, I'm telling you. There you go, Justine.
Very nice. What do you think?
I think it's good.
Apparently I'm not allowed to eat them.
No, but I am, and I've already surpassed the...
Sam, we're fully approving.
I suppose people are always interested to know. Going back to the beginning, was it kind of a instant courtship? Was it like a slow? What did you first see in Ed Miliband? Was it his fashion sense that finally?
Definitely not.
I remember seeing Ed. I'd been single for years, it felt like, and I remember seeing Ed standing unattached in the middle of a room, and I thought, I can't believe my luck. So I went over to chat to him.
But I was attached.
We were, yeah.
That minor thing aside.
Got a very funny chat.
We did have fun. I remember, we had this first ever conversation, and it was a sort of weird because it was a kind of slightly awkward conversation, and yet I always, from that moment on, I knew there was something special about Justine.
Both had a sense of humour.
Both had a sense of humour.
Which it turns out you need.
Indeed.
He is sometimes accused of being from a different kind of privileged elite, but good as it was and is, Ed Miliband's former school certainly wasn't Eton.
So, it is with great pleasure I introduce to you the leader of the Labour Party, Ed Miliband.
He was a diligent, clever pupil, but on his own analysis, certainly not the cool kid. So I was thinking about school on the way here, and I was thinking about my 16-year-old self. For my 16th birthday, I had a bring your own music and wear stripes party, which was officially the worst party in the history of 16-year-old parties. So I thought I'd get you to paint a picture of yourself, age 16.
I do remember going to this sixth form disco. I think this is the closest I can get to this. Wearing some terrible white trousers and a sort of purple jumper.
White trousers were all white trousers and a purple jumper.
I know, it was really bad.
Okay,
I was like poor taste.
Okay. So who advised you on fashion?
Nobody, and that was the reason.
Well, nobody in politics was a cool teenager. There's a direct
That's why we
lack
went into politics.
Only people coming up. I mean, I always think when you go on social media, everyone's really angry.
Yeah.
And then when they meet you in person, everyone's always really polite. Do you find that? Does everyone who come up to you being
the
nice?
great thing about British people is that when they come up to you, they tend to be supporters, not opponents.
Yeah.
I think the opponents tend to...
Is that right? You don't get angry people
Very few people come up to you and say, I think you're a so-and-so. You know what I mean? I'm sure there are people who think that, but the people who tend to come up to me are supporters. Right, I think we're getting on
We're getting in here, yeah, right, let's get in. He is on his way to speak to the Federation of Small Businesses. Not a natural forum for a Labour leader who is perceived as left of centre, one might think. Still, there is always the handily placed politics student on the platform later.
First, you want to go to broadcast journalism. Very good. You've got Tom Bradby here somewhere. Hello, Tom.
Oh my God.
A picture with Tom as well.
Hello, good to meet you. Good to meet you. How you doing?
He wants to be a broadcast journalist, doing politics and economics.
Okay, very good. You sure you don't want to be a politician? Shouldn't you want to be a politician?
You between me and Tom Bradby.
Let's have one together. We fit in. We're going to fit in? That's absolutely...
That is a unique picture. I can promise you that is a unique picture.
Oh my goodness, this made my day. Thank you so much.
Take care.
On the campaign as well.
So, we've just obviously left Birmingham, and you managed to find somebody who's not only a fan of yours, but also knew who I was. So that must have cost you a lot of, remarkable achievement. But cutting to the quick, what about those who think Labour just can't stop spending our money? Your critics are going to say the debt is about to clock through, or has clocked through, £1.5 trillion. We're spending nearly £50 billion a year in debt interest payments. I mean, that's a criminal waste of money, isn't it? At some point, don't you have to just take an aggressive attitude to just stopping that debt mounting?
You do, and that's what... There are some people who say, we should make no cuts. And that's not our position. We are going to have to make cuts outside the protected departments, but you've got to do it in a sensible and balanced way, because if it's not done in a balanced way, it's not only bad for public services, it's bad for your economy.
But the difficulty is that your critics, some of them even within your party, say that your problem with the electorate is that they don't believe you're serious about tackling the deficit. All the polls, you've got Osborne and Cameron ahead on economic management than you. Wouldn't it be more sensible for you to go out and say, OK, we get it, less borrowing, we understand that
We
has
are
to be
going to have
budgeted.
less borrowing. We're going to cut the deficit every year. We're going to balance the books. I've said to my party, no Labour leader's gone into an election saying outside protected departments there are going to be cuts. That's what I'm saying very, very clearly.
It's a question his critics say the party's manifesto fails to answer. Anyway, we head even further north to get down to the really basic issues, such as, is he any good at pool? I want you to know I've put my money on you, just to be clear. That way I can throw it. Right,
For the election or for this game? Was that 2 reds?
And you put down a yellow, though. OK, so this is a bit unfair. You've definitely been practicing.
Oh, my goodness me. OK, that has never...
6 balls.
OK,
there's some cheating going on
ever
here.
happened to me before. I hope you caught on camera that shot that I played, by the way.
It was impressive.
Honestly, I want that broadcast on the Tonight programme. Oh, come on.
So, since this is the real Ed Miliband we're seeing here, are you competitive?
Yeah.
In everything? Or just in pool?
In politics and in pool. Good shot. The comeback Bradby.
Comeback Bradby. You heard it here first. OK, perfect Saturday night?
Oh, in with Justine. Watching a
Dinner?
box set.
Watching a box set.